These are 5 things to do before you go back to school. And I'm not talking about your typical buy your uniform, buy your stationery stuff. These are stuff that some smart kids don't want you to know. These are some stuff that most teachers don't want you to know, believe it or not. And this is how you're going to get ahead of 90% of students out there, because 90% of students will not even think about doing these things. They just worried about enjoying their holidays and getting the most fun they can out of it before the stress of school comes. But you're going to be different, because you click this video, and if you follow these tips, you're going to be that student that prepared during the holiday and will have fun for the entire school year. By following only 2 of these tips, personally, I followed number 5 and number 3, I was able to become the captain of chess and get a subject award for engineering, graphics and design. I got 90% for that subject. Now imagine what you can do with all 5. Number 1 is check your curriculum. Now a lot of you don't know this, but you can actually see what you're going to be doing in the next grade or your next term. Search for your Department of Education website and go to something called curriculum. Look for something that's called Curriculum Assessment Policy Statements, or CAPS if you're in South Africa. Click on that and you'll be taken to a page like this. Look for something called CAPS documents, where you can then download the year plan for whatever grade you're in. So for this example, we chose mathematics, and as you can see, a document came up where we can see exactly what we're going to be doing for all 4 terms. Now if you want the specifics, go to the table of contents and look for your phase. Head to the page number to get an overview of exactly what you're going to be doing for all 4 terms and prepare accordingly. And what will be really funny is if your teacher is still going through a topic, let's say it's algebra, and then you just pick up your hand randomly and say, ma'am, sir, when are we going to do exponents? Or when are we going to move on to trigonometry? We were supposed to be on trigonometry on week 2. And they're going to be like, how do you know that? Because you're looking at the same plan that they look at. They use this document to tell them what they need to teach you. And if you can get your hands on that real early in the game, during your holidays, you can shock a lot of people. The second best thing you can do before you go back to school is to talk to seniors, aka learners who are in a higher grade than you. So for example, if you're in grade 7 and you have that friend in grade 8, imagine this, imagine getting your hands on your friend's notebook from last year, maths, natural science, whatever subject you're having trouble with. You could theoretically, instead of sleeping your holiday away, learn for your term 1 tests during the holidays. And imagine getting about a month or 2 of extra learning in advance. And it's not only the books that are valuable, it's their experience as well. So you can talk to them about what pushes this teacher's buttons. How does this teacher like to operate in the classroom? What layout does she like for books? What kind of questions does she ask in the quiz? How does she expect her class to behave? All of these can be covered by your seniors. But the trick is actually getting one of these seniors to talk to. You might be lucky and you might already have that friend who's at a higher grade, but you also might be kind of an introvert. At this case, it's best just to approach him straight up and be like, hey, you might be throwing your books away. I guess you are throwing your books away. Why not just hand them to me? Or you could just straight up ask them for help. A lot of them are really chilled and they'll talk to you and they'll help you out. But if you're still having trouble and you can't really get them to talk, ask for their books. Or you can even go and ask the teachers instead. You can ask them about the syllabus before you go on holiday. But then again, you would have to watch this video before the holiday. So try your luck, man. This also leads me to point number 3, and you might be lucky enough to meet up with a study guide when you get those books from your seniors. Now, these study guides are invaluable, especially if you're getting a study guide that will help you out with a subject that you really can't understand, that you struggle with, that you don't have a proper textbook for, or that the teacher, quite frankly, isn't good at teaching. We had multiple teachers when I was in high school. We had from grade 8 to grade 10, all our maths teachers used to say that there's only going to be 2 A's in matric or grade 12 or 12th grade. Then in grade 11, you got a new math teacher called Mr. Krause. And when Mr. Krause came in, we went from 2 A's to literally the whole class getting A's for most of their tests, for their exams. And that really speaks about the quality of teaching. Now, to be frank, these days, most teachers didn't think of teaching as their first profession. A lot of them studied something else like medicine or law or psychology. Psychology is a big one. And then they either couldn't finish that degree or couldn't find a job in that degree that they were studying towards. And they did something called a PGCE in teaching. So what that does is they take their current subjects and then they move it towards teaching. It's kind of like they do 4 years of teaching work in one, combined with their experience. So for example, if I was studying civil engineering and I got my civil engineering degree, but I couldn't find a job in that, I can go into teaching maths and physics and use some of those credits that I got from my civil engineering degree and go into teaching. And that's what a lot of people do. And while they might be good at solving problems on paper, they might not be good at actually teaching it to other people. It's like how some people can drive cars but get really impatient when you ask them to teach you how to drive. And you might be unlucky enough to end up with a teacher like that. And if that is you and you have some of the gaps in your learning, maybe you got a 40 or 50, you just scraped a pass on one subject or even failed a subject, maybe you're not to blame, especially if you were doing well in that subject before. Maybe it's the teacher that's to blame. And while you can't always go crying about changing your subject, maybe because maybe you love your subject and you want to do well in it, or you can't change your teacher because school won't allow it and all the classes are full, then study guides and YouTube videos are your best bet to go. You can learn almost anything on YouTube. I learned how to play 2 instruments on YouTube. I learned how to do these videos on YouTube, and you can learn physics on YouTube as well. And when you don't have that data or you need those extra problems to solve, the textbook will be really invaluable. What really helped me in high school was this textbook right here called, well, the Math Study Guide by Kevin Smith. It's really well detailed. If you can get a Kevin Smith guide for math, please do so. I'm not sure about any other subjects. We had very good textbooks for other subjects. So just pray that your school digs into those resources. But if not, get your study handbook for whatever subject you're struggling in.
Don't forget to subscribe.
The fourth best thing you can do before going back to school is to improve your memory techniques. Now, I'll tell you right now, highlighting stuff in a textbook doesn't automatically make it go into your head. You're still gonna have to read it. Reading something over and over again in a textbook doesn't mean you're gonna remember it in the test. Because while repetition does have its parts, and we talk about it later on, there are 5 learning techniques that actually work. These are the memory palace, the Pomodoro technique, spaced repetition, overlearning, and self-testing. Let's talk about the memory palace first. I first saw this in a clip while I was watching one of my favorite series called The Mentalist back in 2016. Yeah. And I linked the clip down below. He performed the memory palace to memorize random animals in a jumbled up order really fast. And I was wondering, is this a real thing? So I researched it further and I found out that it is a real thing. And you can literally memorize things 10 times faster using this technique. It's a whole video on its own actually. The second learning technique you want to know about is the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique was invented in the late 1980s by a student named Francesco Cirillo to organize his study schedule. So what Cirillo did was he had a tomato-shaped timer in his kitchen and he turned it up to about 25 minutes. And then after 25 minutes when the timer ran, he'd take a 5-minute break. And you do this for a maximum of about 3 times. That's how the Pomodoro technique works. You basically study for 25 minutes, concentrated studying, like with no distractions, for 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. You can repeat this up to 3 times, and then after your last Pomodoro session, which will be the 3rd one, you will take a 30-minute break. Now, why this works is it enables you to get past that stage where you get tired of studying. I know for most of you that might be at the beginning, but you gotta push through and you gotta focus. You are able to focus for those 25 minutes. The third learning technique you're gonna want to learn is spaced repetition. Spaced repetition means you're not gonna learn this entire physics book in your first study session. you're going to want to be consistently studying and learning the material daily, or at least every second day. Now, when you're at home, if you put in those focus study sessions, those focus pomodoros every day, it'll be way easier to be prepared for the test that's coming up in 2 weeks or 5 weeks or a month. This gives you time to move everything from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. The fourth study technique you're going to want to learn is called overlearning. And an example would be how guitar players practice for gigs. Now, if you're going to play something like, if you don't do it often, you'll find yourself fumbling a lot. Even if you understand something, or if you think you understand something, keep on going back to it, keep on revising it, especially the night or the day before the test, but not the morning before the test, please. Self-testing. Watching your teacher do a math problem on the board and you doing that problem in the test or exam are two very different things. The best thing you can do is take an exam, a past exam paper or a past test, close your notebook, time yourself, put on that timer on your phone or on your tomato-shaped kitchen timer, write out the test and then mark yourself, and then see actually how good you are. I promise you, if you test yourself, you will find out the truth of your capabilities. And number 5, the last thing you'd want to do before you return to school is train for your extramural activity. In most high schools and in most primary schools as well, you're going to have to participate in at least one. And even if it's not a requirement, it's going to be a huge flex on everyone there that you got your academics in order and you're a captain of something. A lot of people underestimate extramurals, but it's a great way to get into colleges, to get scholarships, to improve yourself. And please don't forget the essentials. You don't want to be that guy who doesn't have a tie on the first day, who doesn't have pens on the first day. Make sure you buy everything on your stationery list and you're looking neat and presentable. Also go over the code of conduct of your school and make sure that you have the right haircut. Yeah, probably don't get a beard if you're going to a high school. But just check with them and find out all the nitty-gritty details before that. And that's how you'll be awesome on your first day of school.